What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, it's that time of the day. It's actually just mailbag time. Middlekauff Mailbag, at John Middlekauff. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs and get your questions answered here on the show. Do you believe that Joe Flacco can keep us in the mix until Joey B comes back? I do not. I think you guys are completely screwed. I would rather have, for your team, I would rather have Jake Browning than Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco cannot move, and your offensive line can't block. So you have a guy who is a statue back there who is not going to have much time. You know, one thing with Burrow and Browning, you know, there has to be some mobility, right? I'm not looking Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson here, but you have to be able to keep plays alive with your legs, and he cannot. I think the Flacco magic of a couple years ago in Cleveland was pretty cool, but that was a one-time deal. It is over. Do the Steelers have a defensive coordinator problem? I don't think Austin is horrible, but he has no ability to make adjustments. The last 4 or 5 years, we've had great talent and some horrible defensive results. Games like the Jets scoring 32 this year, or like in the past few seasons that made Zach Wilson and Will Levis look great. When can we play base defense and everything goes to plan? It looks good, but I don't get why the run defense specifically isn't working. I never see real adjustments being made. Letting Brian Flores walk and not promoting him to DC when we had him was a huge, huge mistake. I wanted to bring up your guys' schedule. I think sometimes in like the Flores situation, it's easy to say that. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Terrell Austin was viewed as like a hot coaching candidate. Listen, the division I think is over. If the Ravens lose this week and they're 1-5, they would have 11 games left. To get to 10 wins, they would have to go 9-2. To get to 9 wins, they'd have to go 8-3. Like they're not doing that. The Browns and the Bengals stink. Like you guys are kind of in the driver's seat. So you get the Browns this week, should win. Then you get the Bengals, should win. Then you get the Packers, Colts, some tougher games. Then you go to the Chargers. Bengals again, at the Bears, Bills, the Ravens, they're in shambles. The Dolphins, the Browns again. I mean, I think the Steelers are winning this division at like 10-7. You'll be fine. Now, to me, your defense comes down to two things. Pass rush, number one, if TJ is going to dominate, and he's looked excellent these last couple weeks, and other guys around him play at a high level, your defense is going to be solid. Because if you give a good pass rush to a competent defensive coordinator, team's going to be good. And then these corners, like Jalen Ramsey has a good season, you're going to be okay. But I do think it's easy to play the Brian Flores game. They weren't going to fire Terrell Austin for Brian Flores at the time. Not a take, no question, just a thought. I said to my coworker today that James Franklin is the college Mike Tomlin. Great during the regular season, but anytime they play a real team or get to the playoffs, the rails fall off. Mike Tomlin's won a lot of big games in the regular season and in the playoffs. He hasn't won a playoff game in a while, but historically he's won some playoff games. He won a Super Bowl. Comparing James Franklin to Mike Tomlin is not fair to Mike Tomlin. That's kind of funny because I think this current version feels a little James Franklin-y, but Mike Tomlin's resume speaks for itself. James Franklin's never won a big game. Never. Worst franchise decision, Vikings letting Darnold go or the 49ers giving Purdy over $50 million a year? It's got to be Darnold because you could have just had Darnold with Addison, with Justin Jefferson, with Hawkinson for years to come. And your backup could have been J.J. McCarthy. And maybe it's a 3-year deal and you treat J.J. McCarthy like Aaron Rodgers. He sits for 3 years. To me, Purdy, earned the contract. He was a really good player. Now he's injured, and the 49ers somehow find backup quarterbacks that can play always. But They weren't going to not pay him. They just weren't. I mean, they talked about paid Purdy years ago. Love the pod. Thank you for the entertainment. Where does Danielle Hunter, I don't know why I call him Danielle Hunter, rank in the top defensive players in the league? Ever since he joined the Texans, they've had a top 5 defense, it seems. No one on the networks really mentions his name, and they bring up the best of the best. The man is only 30 with 100 sacks. I remember when I was doing radio, I got to know a lot of guys on the Raiders staff because I was going to all the Raider games. And I got to know John DeFilippo pretty well. And he was the quarterback coach for the Raiders with Dennis Allen, and then he went on to the Eagles, and then he became the OC for the Vikings for a couple years with Kirk Cousins. And I remember texting him in his first training camp. He's like, "This is one of the biggest freaks I've ever seen." I said, "Who?" He said, "Hunter. He is a dominant player." That was the first time it kind of came on my radar. That would have been probably 2018 range, I would guess. Yeah, I mean, he's just a freak show. I mean, they gave him 2 years, $50 million, guaranteed basically every penny for a reason. He's a monster, really good player. I think part of it is, we don't spend much time talking about the Houston Texans. We just don't, unless they're really, really good. But yeah, he's a badass. I mean, you put him with Will Anderson and their DBs, and D'Amico dialing up the defense. Good defense. I know you're not the biggest soccer fan in the world, but with tickets going on sale this past week, I wanted to ask if you're looking forward to the tournament, given that it's across North America, and if there's any players, teams you'd want to get tickets to see in the Bay or at SoFi. No, I think I'm going to be a watch the World Cup on TV guy. It's cool. It's coming here. It's going to be badass. It's going to be a massive event. But I think your boy is just going to enjoy it on television. Here's what I know. I am not, and I repeat, I am not going to get excited for our team. I do not plan on us advancing. I plan on everyone complaining after we lose a game that we should have won and then be winning a game that we shouldn't win and end up tying it or losing it. Like, my expectations for our team, we do this every 4 years. I'm just not buying into it. I'll never forget, I've told this story before. The World Cup that would have been 2010, I think was in Brazil, and the American team stopped off to play like a friendly at the link. And I was downstairs working out, and they came to practice at our practice facility. And I was actually outside like running some gassers or something back in my skinny days. And I just remember the team doing a warm-up basically around our fields, and they were like right next to me. And the only guy I remember thinking, like, Tim Howard looked the part, the goalie. But the rest of the players, it's like, we're so small. And that was, Landon Donovan, Dempsey, some of those guys. But I just remember whenever we watch some of these other teams, and I understand size doesn't matter in soccer. I get it, Messi's small. But it does feel like some of these teams have more blue chippers, just athletic body types than us. And clearly, we're just not as good. But I'm done. I'm done even pretending to get excited. I'll root for when we're playing. But my expectations for Team USA are zilch. They do not exist. Everyone always complains like, this was not going to be the year. We don't care about soccer enough here. We care about football. We care about a lot of sports. Soccer on the importance of our country. If it was more important, we'd be better. Period, point blank, end of story. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app has new promos every day. We talk a lot of football on 3 and Out, but there's always something to bet. It's October. Postseason baseball is here. You can bet on winners, pitchers, home run hitters, so much more. Week 6 doesn't kick off till tomorrow, but if you haven't tried your first bet yet on Hard Rock Bet, there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but you get $150 in extra bonus bets. And since today is Wednesday, if you're already betting on the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app, you know what that means. It's the last time to use your legendary rewards drops. Open up the app today. You could have a bonus bet, and who knows what is in there. More drops every Thursday. The rewards and promos are nonstop. Not sure why these teams keep trying to pooch kick the kickoffs late in the fourth quarter. I think the risk-reward really flips late games. I've watched Seattle basically win a game because of a bad pooch kick, which set them up for a field goal with not much time left. I watched the Niners last night. The Rams kicker pooch kicked the ball in overtime, and it didn't make it to the landing zone, meaning you start at the 40. Poor special teams coaching late in the fourth quarter. Why not just keep kicking it deep in those situations? Because if you kick it deep and you fly the landing zone into the end zone, they will start at the 35. So you're kind of getting greedy. You're hoping if you pooch kick it correctly that you will tackle them somewhere between the 20 and 25. And 10 yards late in a game, especially if they don't have timeouts, is a huge difference. But you could argue the risk versus reward if you fuck up like Butker did, like the Rams did, and I give you the ball at the 40, that is a massive, massive penalty for a screw up. It's like a poorly thrown ball getting you 50 yards of pass interference. It's pretty devastating. But I think it's hard for a coach to go, yeah, just kick it through the end zone. Start at the 35. So I think everyone's still feeling this out. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. Because if your pooch kick works, you feel pretty good about it. A few weeks ago, I listened to your Sunday night podcast with Coward. The whole time, you spoke with a very strong lisp. I listen to your podcast almost daily. I've never heard you speak like this. Was it a glitch in the Matrix? Did you lose a bet with Colin? Or what's to explain it? We have a video and audio team at the volume. And the audio that I'm currently recording gets sent off to my guy Adam. He is an audio wizard, and no different with Colin. So the raw audio that I send him that I'm recording on like GarageBand from my computer gets put through programs to make like the echo in my room and just any sort of sounds kind of dissipate. So when you listen, ideally it's really high quality. Now I got high quality equipment and sound modifiers in front of me, but this is not a studio. Now I'm building a studio right now for my backyard, but even then, like this is not going to be like Taylor Swift recording an album in a legitimate music studio or radio studio, right? So we have a bunch of programs that deal with everything from video to audio, and a button got pressed. I got so many DMs saying, John, did you drink pretty heavily? John, did you have a tooth removed? What is wrong with you? And after like 7 of those, I went and listened. I'm like, what are these people talking about? And something like I think in the program, the way it was explained to me, is one of the attributes of the audio program is so like hard S's. And listen, I screw up words all the time. I tried to say I think extravaganza the other night, and that word did not come out of my mouth. So that there are going to be things that you can't fix, but there are things that just make the audio quality better. But I think a button was pressed, and it did something with anything that involved an S and made it sound insane. But it was funny. I mean, it will ultimate. But I was not drunk. I didn't develop a list overnight, but it's programs. The amount of stuff that goes on behind the scenes with all this stuff is pretty crazy. Honestly, I didn't even really, I think, grasp that until that moment happened, and then I had it explained to me. Like, oh, that's cool. What is your opinion of Justin Fields? I accidentally have this thing. I can't really read this. Sorry, Forrest. He's a quarterback, but does he have the potential like a Baker or a Daniel Jones to where he could manage a team and bring them to a championship with the right pieces around him? I'm a Michigan State fan, so I have no loyalty to him, but I feel like people aren't seeing the improvements he has made with bad franchises and defensive coaches. Also, F the Bengals for screwing over Burrow and Jake Browning by trading for Flacco. I would not. I would say, listen, if Daniel Jones can play this well, then yeah, maybe Fields. But I would not compare Baker Mayfield to Justin Fields. He's a dramatically better natural passer of the ball, natural feel for the pocket. He's just a dramatically better player. But when you see someone like Daniel Jones resurrect his career, you would say, Fields to me has been really impressive off the field with the Bears situation, with obviously the Steelers situation. The Jets are a joke, so like my expectations for his play aren't great. Though, like, I would say Justin Fields has not been a very good NFL quarterback most of his career. He's an excellent runner. But when it comes to passing the ball, he struggles. He has a big arm. And listen, I was wrong. I loved him coming out. I thought you could make the argument that he was a better prospect or more intriguing prospect than Trevor Lawrence. And I had buddies in the league that were like, "You're on crack cocaine." I'm like, "No, I just like this guy. I think his attributes are better." And I'm not the biggest Trevor Lawrence guy, but he's a more natural player. And I wouldn't even call Trevor Lawrence the most like instinctive natural player relative to his talent. But Fields, there's just like a lack of rhythm and feel to the game. And at quarterback, when you lack the feel and rhythm to passing, it's hard to play. I mean, the stat that went viral of Justin Fields is like, I think he's like 0 and 25 when someone scores. Let me just bring this up. Justin Fields is 0 and 26 as a starter when the opponent scores 21 points. That's an insane stat. It'd be one thing if it's like he's 0 and 26 when they score 40 points. Like, yeah, he's playing on a terrible team. 21 points. So it's a nice way of saying, as a starting quarterback, um, I'm out. Now, Daniel Jones, like they got him for $14 million. Would I pay Justin Fields 1 year $10 million? Sure. They gave him 2 years, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. I was like, that felt like a little pricey relative to the way he played. I would have said the Colts would have been insane if they would have given Daniel Jones that contract. What's your take on the Eagles? Or what's it going to take for the Eagles to pull the trigger and fire Patullo to prevent another BJ situation? I said BJ is Brian Johnson. You think Nick still believes in his buddy? My fear is the offensive talent on the roster will delay an inevitable firing. I do think sometimes Thursday night games, whether you're an elite team or a bad team, can just be weird, especially as the season goes on. You're tired, quick turnaround, coaches can't sleep. It's just the games could be really wacky. So, like, if the Eagles in a perfect world had the number one offense in the league right now, it wouldn't shock me at all if they played this Giants team and won like 15 to 10. Thursday night, you're tired, road game, very believable. But if I tell you right now they win this game 15 to 10 on prime time with everyone watching, it's only going to get louder. And I don't know the guy personally, but it's a tough place to be with the expectations, with the amount of talent on the offense. I mean, it's immense. With a quarterback who can be just a little fickle. I mean, he's one of the more bizarre players in league history. He really is because I don't know, I just don't ever remember a guy quite like Jalen Hurts. Where it's like you just ask a random guy, you're like, is he a really good player? Well, it's like he's done some really good things. He has a lot of talent, but like you can watch him on games, you're like, this guy's terrible. But is it like the coordinator? I don't know. I've seen him with good coordinators have bad games too, but then he's had great games in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. One thing I think he hesitates to do, he did a little more last year because remember 2 years ago he didn't do it and he was kind of banged up. Is like, and he should run more. Now, he's way more accomplished than Bo Nix, but Tony Romo was talking about this in the Bronco game. I guess they were playing the Eagles, so if you're an Eagle fan, you were watching the game too. It's like, Bo, just take off every once in a while. It's like getting in the free throw line as a basketball player. It's like, I'm 0 for 9 from deep. Well, yeah, get an easy basket. Get to the hole, get fouled, see a couple hit the net. This isn't that fucking complicated. It's like, Jalen, just take off. Bo, just take off. If you're struggling a little bit, just gain 10 yards. Mahomes and Josh Allen do it all the time. And they're not even trying to get a rhythm. They're just trying to gain yards. But they're just like, go. Utilize your feet more. Browns fan here, sadly. What do you think should be done about Stefanski? I like him and think we should keep him till we get a quarterback one because it's hard to be consistent when there's no consistency at the most important position in the league, quarterback. I don't know, man. I think the Browns have found themselves in this ugly, unenviable position. They made a move with Baker Mayfield, and it's one of the all-time failures. This guy, if Baker Mayfield wins the MVP, and you are shuffling through Flacco, Shador Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel as your team wins 3 or 4 games, and you're just an embarrassment while you pay a guy 50, $60 million to rehab who you are going to cut the moment you don't owe him as much money anymore, it's tough to shake. And I think it's easy. People like media people that don't like what we do will always be like, oh, you're just so hyperbolic, just talking heads, just saying this. Like, I understand why they moved on from Baker Mayfield. That doesn't change the fact that 4 or 5 years later, we're in a position where he might win the MVP of the league. And if you're the Browns, you drafted him number 1 overall. And yeah, was he a little immature? Sure. They traded for a guy that could not stay out of the massage therapist giving him handies. I mean, it's an all-time story. We've never seen anything like it. It's like quarterback, good-looking guy, should get laid with ease. It's like, no, this guy was just addicted to going to massages. And then he's terrible. He's kind of a weird dude. And clearly people aren't that into him. And then he sucks at football. I mean, it's an all-time disaster. It really is. And I have a hard time putting that on Stefanski. But the simple reality is you fire coaches before you fire players. And if they could have fired Deshaun Jackson or Deshaun Watson, they would have fired him a year ago. They'd fire him right now. They can't. So can these guys survive just losing week after week? I would say based on their owner's history, I still can't believe when you think about the Watson situation. Now, they thought he was a star, so they went, who cares about the massage situation? But then they get him, and he's not a star, and that thing just would not go away. Like, pretty embarrassing. I mean, it's really kind of a low-level thing. And I'm not moral high horse to act like, you know, a lot of people listening been to their massage therapist over the years, right? But relative to in his situation, now I see some of these pictures now, like with his new fiance. It's just weird. It's kind of just, yeah. The guy's just toxic. I mean, the Browns can't wait to get rid of Deshaun Watson, and no team will ever sign him ever again. Think about that. Henry Ruggs, who got wasted at Topgolf and killed the chicken or dog, will get another chance. He will. When he gets out of prison, he will get a workout. Wouldn't shock me at all if he's at OTAs or training camp. Deshaun Watson will never play for another NFL team whenever he is cut within the next 24 months. Ever. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I don't just say teams do not care. But he is, to me, he's untouchable. Terrible and a whack job? Is there any worse combination? Like, ideally, do you know what you want? Good player, great guy. Mahomes, you know, that's high character guy. Teammates love him. Never gets in trouble. Good player. That's what you're working. The least desirable is like, he sucks. Whack job. Got about 17 lawsuits coming after him. You're like, yeah, don't really want to get in business with that. But that to me is on Jimmy Haslam, not on the GM and the owner. With how obviously important the NFL front office is to team success, can you expand on these roles? The GM is a critical piece. Is the GM exclusively responsible for the salary cap, or is there a finance guy that helps run the cap? Also, can you expand on what the pay for front offices? What does the GM pay? How much would the second, third guys in line make? I think it depends, right? Like Howie Roseman is intimately involved in the salary cap. Now they pay people, Jake Rosenberg, who was there forever, and now whoever filled his spot, who work the day-to-day cap numbers and contract negotiations. But Howie has intimate knowledge of how that works. And then, a guy like Jason Light, who has said, like, I understand the basics of it, but I'm not the nitty gritty of the contract, right? Like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan depend on Parag and his team to run point on the contracts, right? Now, they determine value and how much you want a guy and stuff, but most of these teams now with how much money's on the line, it is ran by an individual with a financial background. I think the GM would vary team to team. I think the highest paid GMs in the league would be like Howie Roseman, John Schneider. I mean, I would. This would be an educated guess. I'd say $8 to $10 million. John Lynch makes a ton. I think John Lynch makes like $10 million. I would imagine Les Snead makes a lot. Um, and then the low paid GMs, probably make a couple $1 million. A guy like Brett Veach, when he first got the job, was probably making 1 million. And then you start winning Super Bowls, you start kicking ass and taking names. That thing five, six, seven X's. So I think the pay varies from anything from like 2 million, like Dan Morgan with Carolina, probably one of the lower paid guys. Which again, relative to society, making $2, $3 million, and you have guys making 10 plus. Uh, I think the number two would probably vary on experience. Uh, would run you. I mean, I've had different people tell me anywhere from like 800 grand to $1 million as like the true number two GM. But it also varies like where do you live? Because paying you $1 million to be the 49ers number two is essentially the same of being probably paid 600 grand to be the Chiefs number two. So if you can get, and this is the argument that I've had buddies tell me, that their owner will be like, well, we're in, this city is way less expensive than you're comparing this to the guy in LA or the guy in New York. So I think you battle some of those. Uh, so that depends. I think the number two is typically under $1 million, but high six figures, 7, 8, 900 grand. And then once you start going below that, it's simply based on experience, how much, some franchises are cheaper than others, but you could find college directors making 500 grand. You could probably find some that make $275,000. But I mean, these are obviously good jobs. The other thing about a college director is some of these guys don't live in their area. So, like, I could be the college director for the 49ers, but potentially live in like Dallas, Texas, right? Or for the Philadelphia Eagles and live somewhere else. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to the facility, going to games a lot, but my home base can be somewhere different. And then, scouts on the road probably, I started at like 50 grand, and that was 15 years ago, a little less, probably 12. But you could find anyone making 60, 70 grand. You can find guys making 200 grand. So it probably varies that way. So obviously GMs make less than coaches, the high end guys. Like, the high end coaches are making 15 to 20 million. The GMs are making, the good ones and accomplished Super Bowl ones are making 7 to 10. So I mean, there's a lot of money getting thrown around. That's why I always say Wall Street on grass. But I think the college director would say our wide receiver coach is making $750,000. Coaches make way more than scouts. The coordinators are all making millions. But you have these position coaches, like a running back coach, if he's been in the league 20 years, might be making $775,000, right? A linebacker coach who's got 15-year experience might be making $650,000. The position coaches in the NFL and college and the SEC, the Big Ten, are making a ton. I mean, huge money. And obviously the coordinators, the Fangios, the Chip Kellys, the Robert Salas, you guys are making $4 to $6 million a year. It's a good time to be in the NFL, right? But it's also why there can be some bitterness. Some of these like road scouts get angry because they go like, I'm making 150K. I am on the road 80% of the year. I scout, guys we're going to draft in the first, second round, and I'm making nothing relative to my profession, what other guys in my building are making. There can be some bitterness and resentment there for sure.